Hi everyone, how are you? So I am I'm still with headache and extreme um, tiredness. So anyway, everything is gonna be fine. So I will try to do my best today, but I am not really sharp, of course, because of the eclipse and so on. Um, but anyway, during this whole month, you have seen me not being sharp at all because it was terrible. So, so you experience me being completely out of my axis. But anyway, Scorpio. So I love Scorpio energy, of course. I really like it, but of course, working with working with Scorpio energy 30 days in a row, so it's very very heavy. So so it's being hard. So of course, many of you also have felt this in your life. Uh, since I was a kid, I always felt like that with the eclipse. So it's like very moving. Bueno, así que so every eclipse is about to show us the shadows, all the shadows that we have. So it's to show everything that we hide within, inside, into the outside. So it's like turn yourself back like a socks, something like that. Um, and uh, and this feeling when you are like connected to the planet, you feel it like if you are in a boat, you know, like you lose the axis and um, you change, something change. So during an eclipse, we usually are very exposed to everything energetically. So that's why it's recommended to be quiet, to rest, to stay calm um, until it happens. So this eclipse is in Gemini. Sorry, this eclipse is in Gemini. So it reminds us of what happened 6 months ago when it was Gemini. So what we have to see to pay attention to is about all the relationships, all the projects that we started, but that we are not paying attention to, and all the shadows of that, of those projects, of those relationships that I am not paying attention to, they will come up to be healed. So talking about eclipses, the topic for today is shadows. So this day, one before we close the whole month, reminds us about the main thing that school is trying to teach us, to show us, which is all the shadows that we have, all the shadows, all the things that we have under the shadows. So what we are going to talk about today is about everything that we hide and how we hide it. So the first thing we are going to talk about is how for us in our culture we describe shadows. Because from the point of view of humans, shadows are like the enemy, the opposite of light. And it's not like that. It's not that. So let's go to understand what is shadow, so we don't stop polarizing this concept. And the reason why we have a lack of light is because something gets in between the light and other things, which is the matter. Okay? The reason why I create a shadow is not because the shadow appears as a force against the light. It appears because there's a hand here. So because of the hand, I have the shadow. So what is matter? Matter is the distortion of light of energetical particles that starts to join one another and to create a structure that is compact. So basically, from the origin, we have a wave of energy. This wave of energy manifests in a particle. The particle creates a polarity, positive and negative. Both of them creates an atom. And the atom joining with other atoms, it creates a molecule, and the molecule chemical reactions and composed and so on. To try to understand this, the particles of light, they travel constantly in between the particles of matter. So if you have two particles here, and then the particle wave of light, it moves in between of the space between the other particles, the light goes on. But there are a lot of these particles that will hit. The particles of light would hit the other particles, like the proton or so on. So it will reflect like in a mirror. So when they reflect, they bend itself, changing direction. And when they bend and start to move in different directions, that's what we call the bending of time and space. That's why we perceive the limitations of these realities, because of the bending of our reality, our perception. Okay, so this means that all the photons, the light is going through everything. It goes through me, through the chair, through everything. They go all around, no limits. The thing is that when the particle starts to get together by gravity, they start to create all these structures of matter. The different particles are so close to one another that there's no much space for all the particles to go through, for all the photons, the light to go through. So there are many thousands and billions of these tiny particles that just go and like jump back, okay, hitting all the different particles so they cannot go through. Thousands and thousands of them. So this is why the matter gets so closed, so stuck, that doesn't allow all the light to go through. If all this light cannot get into the other side when it goes through me, so there is a lack of light on the other side. And that's what we call shadow. Who produces the shadows and the darkness is matter. Matter is darkness. So matter is the one that has been created by darkness, because matter is creating darkness. When you listen to these people that says that matter is kind of a system created by the dark side of the universe that is trying to control and to make us feel slaves of the reality. Yes, it's true. It's how it works. Of course, that's the way it is. Matter is the darkness, the dark side. But we have to remember this. We have said at the beginning, what is matter? Matter is just the product of vibration, of particles of light that is vibrating constantly and fast. So matter is just the distortion of light. So darkness by itself, it doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is light, but distorted. So the consciousness creates the light, and the light creates the darkness, so the darkness can create matter. And through matter, the consciousness can experience itself. So as you see here, it's all part of a process, it's not part of a war. So when we talk about the world of shadows, we are not talking specifically about the darkness. The darkness, which is the matter, has created the patterns and the structure that doesn't allow the light to come through. So that's why we create shadows. So the reason why we have this perception of darkness being against light is because the particles of light rebound when they hit the particles of matter. So basically what the whole thing is that we can think about the fight against light and darkness. It can all be just put in a summary that is a particle of a photon particle of light that bounces on a proton. That's it. Take a little bit of weight to the rest. And this doesn't mean that the rest of the things like demons and all those other creatures and they don't exist. No, they do exist. But they are all reflections of that only truth. So in the same way as I am a body made up with billions of particles creating atoms, so in other dimensions there are also many thousands of other beings created by the same particles. So acknowledging that we are distortion, the consciousness is looking for harmony, coherence, balance. Okay? So for sure, most of the people that are here and listening this has some connection with the Christian traditions. And because you, of course, know the name of Lucifer. And Lucifer is a way in which you may describe this creator of the matter. Because Lucifer has comes from the Latin word lux, fero. Lux meaning light and fero meaning the one that brings. So lux fero or lux fero, Lucifer, means the one that brings the light, So all the stories you may hear about him, about this concept, is all about this description of how the light is creating the matter. Lucifer is not a being that you may see and with eyes and head. Lucifer is a system. Okay, it's a system which is the light creating itself and in itself. Okay, so it's talking about an entity that describes the creator itself. So all the divinities after this, all the divinities after this, like all the divinities from water, from earth, from air, from fire, they are all related to the darkness, because they are all related to the creation, to the manifestation. Okay. So just a parenthesis, because I was looking into some comments. What about the bad people and the bad things that happen? Bad things are not related with darkness. Okay, no relationship, no specific relationship with darkness. There's also a bright light can also hurt your eyes. Okay, so what is a bad person or a bad thing or a bad being? Is a being that is so distorted from the axis it can hurt or distort the other ones around. So that's something that is bad. So as much distorted I become, the worst I could be for the rest. So as much we start to be distorted, we can see the tissues of reality. So it's impossible to see the correct light. So all we can see is shadows everywhere. So what this means, that someone that is living in matter will live its whole life through the comparison between shadows and darkness. So let's remember this, that we are divine beings that has been distorted, that they themselves distorted themselves in order to be able to live the experience of matter. So what we are doing now is to living everything through this shadow, through distortions. This is why even if we know that we are divine, if you are alive, you understand the reality through the shadows that you have created. And this is the most important thing. You live the reality through the shadows that you yourself has created. So we live our lives creating more path, more tissues, more connections, so more shadows. As much more light, here we live much more colors. These colors will create different realities, objects, and with those thousands of objects, we create shadows. This is why we live in a world interpreted from the point of view of shadows. So one of the great mistakes that we usually do in the path of consciousness is to believe that in order to find the truth, you have to get rid of shadows, you have to get rid of darkness. You have to escape from this system. So now think about this. if all the reality, all the distortions were created by light, this means that everything that exists is light, even if it is distorted, is light. So why are we seeing shadows? It's just because we are paying much more attention to the lack of light than to the light itself. The thing would be that when we are trying to fight darkness or fight shadows, it's kind of like trying to fight something that it doesn't exist, because it's like how do you say it in English? Quixote. I don't know the name of it in English. It's like Don Quixote fighting the windmills. It doesn't have any sense. So everything that exists is light that was distorted. So everything is light. So the only thing that I have to do in my life is to understand the patterns of light and not to fight against the shadows, which is nothing. So to understand how to see the light, we have to pay attention to the shadows. And why? Because we are used to see the shadows. So this would be like, for example, you have a problem in your life. You have conflicts in your life. And you have a problem with someone, or you are afraid of something, or whatever, and that's your shadow. So you're paying attention to that shadow. Like, oh, this is my conflict. But paying attention to that shadow is like, for example, putting your hand like this, and if you have that there, the light there, and I move like this, in my shadow, I will see a dog barking. Okay? So I see the dog. So is, oh, that's a dog. That's the dog. That's the problem. That's the dog wants to bite me. You know? But you only see the dog, and you're not seeing the hand. The hand is the one doing the dog. So by paying attention to the shadow, you may know the projection that it is doing in your life, from where it comes, that problem. This means what you are looking at is only the shadow of something that is real. That is the problem. Okay? So this brings us to the myth of Ariadna and the Minotaurus maze. The interpretation of this is like the maze is life, is always the distortion that we have created, and this cord of gold that we have that Ariadna has is the one that she uses to not to get lost in this labyrinth. Okay, so it is using that so it finds its path back to the entrance, to the origin. The way we can understand this allegory is that in order to find the origin and using this cord of gold, which is the light, is to bring clarity to the path you took for every problem. So when you have a problem in your life, a conflict, you have to start asking yourself from where it came from. Is this conflict something that I know? This happened before? And this also comes from one of my parents, from my mom, and it's coming from my grandmother. And so you start to wander in history, in past lives, and you do therapies and you do many other things until you find the origin. And the origin is always a concept. It's always something conceptual. It's not something real. So when I said conceptual, it's because a concept is to catch, to grab a perception. So everything comes from a perception. And what it means is that nothing really happened. Nothing really happened. What creates the patterns in your life is just the perception of something that was lived. Okay, so, but what happened was not the truth, it's your perception of things. So this helps you to understand that perceptions are the shadows of life. So when you understand the perceptions, you get the shadows and you get the origins of the shapes. So this means that shadows doesn't exist, but they are a guide to find the light. And in order to do that, we have to follow the golden cord of Ariadna in the labyrinth to bring clarity in each step that I give until the origin. So this is why we have to honor our shadows, because two different things. One thing is because darkness has created us, and the other thing is because its shadows are guiding us to the light. I think that this clarifies everything I want to say. And the rest is very clarified in the allegory of the cavern, of the cave. I wrote in the blog, so I invite you to read the blog so you can have that point of view. The vibration for today is Chu. The statement for today is, I am the space's emptiness. My vision is not for so many letters. The code for today is the unconscious transcendence. Likewise, the soul, the emotion, neutralizes, losing the notion of bounds, of belonging even to the body, without any emotion related to greatest joys or the greatest sadness. For everything is perfect. Feelings simply give a meaning to those facts, and I allow myself to be and to feel with everyone equally, without detentions from any external projections. Let's go to the alignment. In breathing. And I take my hands to the crown and I start to massage the entire body until the feet. I become aware of each part of the body that I touch, telling to my body that everything that I do is for its greatest good. As I relax and pay attention only to my breathing, I see a forest around me. Acknowledging the forest, I start to walk to its center, to the core of it, perceiving how it becomes a rainforest. And I pay attention to the singing of the birds and the insects. As I walk into the shadows of this forest, I see in front of me the greatest tree of all. With the huge branches covering the whole sky. Filled with leaves that only allow tiny little rays of light from the sun with the appearance of stars in the night sky. I get closer to the tree, touching the trunk, caressing the crust, and laying down between its roots, watch the sky and its branches and leaves. I recognize this is the tree of life. I recognize that within this tree, I feel the lives, all the living beings, the individuals that had experiencing different paths. For here, all the spaces coexist. Take a deep breath and recognize yourself as one of those living beings, living an experience, a path by its own, in a specific space, which is here. And I also recognize that I find myself under the shadows of this tree of life. And that is through the shadows that I have found the meaning of my existence. I perceive how the shadows of the mud around starts to swallow my body as I become another root of this tree. I perceive how the mud covers my feet and legs, hands and arms, belly, chest, back, shoulders, and all my head, but my face, which is still outside. Within me, I perceive the seed of creation, of my potential, surrounded by all these shadows. I recognize that I am built by darkness, living under the shadows of life. And light can be only turned on in this seed within me. With my singing, I start to activate the potential of my seed. I am the space's emptiness. I am space's emptiness. I am space's emptiness. We are music. That inspires the art. That designed the forms. We are architects of light, designing the darkness. We are the patterns and matrix of light and darkness. We are the creators that have decided to be born. And this is how we are, kids of the light and kids of the darkness. We are enlightened beings living in the shadows. And are our voices the ones guiding us through the streams of creation? Let's sing for we are music. We are music. Take a deep breath and begin to bring the mud to all your body, caressing it. I recognize I am this mud, I am humus, I am human. And I come back here and now. Thank you for being there. And as always, see you tomorrow at the same time for the Taurus.